Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so good to be with all of you today. It is Monday, March 23rd. We're live on Rumble, live on Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV. Welcome to everyone who's watching live on YouTube and Substack and Facebook. And for those of you who are listening at your leisure via podcast, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Amazing to be with all of you today. I feel absolutely wonderful after the 4th annual 2026 Summit for Truth and Wellness. It went off without a hitch on Saturday, and one of the most powerful summits we have ever done here in Rochester, New York, featuring William Makis and Sasha Latapova. Their presentations were simply astounding in terms of how to stay healthy in 2026, how to not get cancer, and then how to treat it. William with an incredibly powerful presentation in a packed house. 250 people came from all over the country. The audience was largely national: Canada, Texas, Florida, California, Iowa, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York. People poured in from all over the nation to hear what William Makis had to say. He is curing cancer, and he is doing it cheaply. And I am convinced this is why he is the most persecuted practitioner of health and healing in the world, because he is helping people heal and be cured from cancer, and he is showing them how to do it incredibly cheaply, right? For as little as $100 a month, using generic drugs, and a combination of generic drugs, plus diet changes and fasting and other protocols. Unbelievable presentation, absolutely powerful. There were about a dozen people who flew in to meet him because he cured them. It was unbelievable. There were very, very many people there who were in different stages of cancer. It was heartbreaking in certain moments. I mean, these people are so desperate, and these cures are being withheld from them. And the fact that William is putting out these protocols and the email correspondence and the recommendations that he is giving, making it public on his Substack, this is why they want to take him down and take him out. Just amazing. Just amazing. Thank you to all of you, Americans for Healthcare Alternatives, everyone who turned out, all of our volunteers and our staffers, Sasha and William. Thank you for coming. It was the most powerful summit we have ever hosted, and my cup runneth over. It's amazing, these summits every year. For the month leading up to them, I feel like I have a 1,000-pound brick on my chest as we put it together, in the organization and bringing everyone in, and everything that goes into this benefit that is to support Americans for Healthcare Alternatives. We raised almost 10,000, I believe. We haven't tallied everything yet, but we raised almost 10,000 for this amazing organization. There is me with Bill Benz, one of our Rumble chatters. Hey, Bill, how are you? That's William Makis in the background. Amazing. We had Be My Valentine was there in the crowd. Martin Buskman was there, and it was just absolutely amazing. We were able to gift Americans for Healthcare Alternatives almost, I believe, well, I'll know the final tally soon, but I think we're close to $10,000, which is just absolutely amazing. We were able to support William and also Sasha, and it was just amazing. Just amazing. Bill Benz, I see you there. on the live chat. Mod Trend is with us as well. Fasting works wonders. Oh, I wish everyone could have seen it. We didn't publicize it. We didn't live stream it. We did video record it. We hope to release that video at some point in the future. But as of today, William is still in great danger. The authorities in Alberta are threatening him with 2 years in prison. He has fled Canada. He is now safely in the United States of America, working on bringing his family to Florida. He has secured his Florida medical license from the Florida Department of Health via Dr. Joseph Ladapo, the Florida Surgeon General, and Governor Ron DeSantis. But he needs his citizenship and his visa to be approved in order for that license to kick in. He is planning on opening a wellness center and a health coaching brick and mortar in the state of Florida and expand it out through the country and the world. And that is the mission now, is to protect William and Sasha and all of their efforts and make sure that we can bring these life-saving ideas, these life-saving protocols to everyone, rich and poor. And right now, the affluent and the wealthy are able to get these protocols. These protocols are being released to them through consultations and complementary cancer care. And there are great doctors out there in the States who are helping patients with these protocols, but the costs are astronomical, $1,500 to $2,000 for just an initial 30-minute consultation or evaluation. William Mackis, when he first started, was charging less than $500 for the entire thing. I mean, when I tell you this man stood for 2 hours after his presentation and talked to every single person, an absolute hero. He and Sasha complemented each other amazingly well. And I think the two of them are going to be a dynamic duo. We're going to seek to recreate this in South Carolina. Huge thank you to the Clout Hub team. That's Todd Callender's operation. They came out and also video recorded and supported our efforts. And they are having a gathering in South Carolina, I believe in April, maybe May. And we're going to see if we can do something similar. I'm not sure if everyone's calendars are in alignment yet, but just amazing. Just amazing. So thank you to everyone who participated, who flew out, who stayed overnight, who supported these efforts. Another summit and the most successful one we have ever had. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We also met Dr. Shireen Ishmael. And yes, we need to protect her. I see you, Bill Benz. We are going to welcome Dr. Shireen. She's been on the show before. Her attorney is Chad Davenport. She's a New York State pediatrician. And the last time we had Shireen on the show, New York State was threatening to take her 7-year-old son. They are attacking her practice because she believes in medical freedom and does not force vaccinate in her pediatric practice in Syracuse. They have now leveled 21 felony criminal charges against Dr. Shireen Ishmael over one count, one instance of an accusation that she forged her own son's vaccine record. And so because of that one instance, they have no proof of it. They cannot prove it, but they have used that to open the door to a variety of other criminal charges. Absolutely horrifying. We were able to bring attention to Dr. Shireen's very, very terrifying case, and we're going to have her on the show again. I was also able to meet just some amazing activators in New York State, and we are going, Americans for Healthcare Alternatives is an unbelievable organization, and it is going to be the center point of medical freedom in New York State. We're going to grow this organization, and we're going to connect more and more people, and we are going to have strength in numbers. Mark my words. Just amazing. Just amazing. So let's hit the live chat. I just wanted to mention that first. We have a lot to get to today on the SJ show. You see the headlines: Whiplash. Trump tries to end the Iran war and restart it all in one morning, this morning. This is absolutely insane. That was from the Kobeissi letter. They pushed this out this morning at 7:04 a.m. Eastern time today. President Trump said that the US and Iran have had productive discussions to end the Iran war. By 7:10 a.m. Eastern Time, the S&P 500 surged plus 240 points, adding 2 trillion in market cap. 27 minutes later, Iran completely denied all of President Trump's claims and said there had been no contact whatsoever, accusing him of fabricating the entire event with the United States. By 8 a.m. Eastern Time, the S&P 500 had fallen 120 points, erasing 1 trillion in market cap. That's a $3 trillion swing in market cap in 56 minutes, just in the S&P 500. And all the other markets are insane as well. In real time, Donald Trump pumping and dumping and pumping and dumping all the way down as he enriches. We have a piece here. This was insane. I mean, the insider trading on this is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. People made an enormous amount of money. The insiders, those who are connected to the Trump administration, every time he pulls these stunts, a new billionaire is created. And we can be certain that these are attached to Trump. He is such a crook, an absolute crook. We're going to discuss that a little bit today in the program. We also have to hit some of the headlines. The vaccine injury meeting, the very first of its kind at VSIP, has now officially, at ACIP, has now officially been canceled. A judge apparently canceled it, erasing once again one of the major promises of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and his HHS and this administration to get to the bottom and to bring understanding about vaccine injury, chronic vaccine injury and death from not only the childhood schedule, but all injections. That's now off the table. This was reported by React 19. We're going to look at that. ICE has now been deployed to the airports. Once again, one of the themes of this presidency is to normalize the deployment of the police state into the interior of the United States of America, to normalize the existence of boots on the ground in our towns and villages, in our airports. We saw it in the beginning at Minneapolis, Minnesota, and now the contrived crisis, the airport crisis with TSA, is now being used to justify the deployment of ICE agents into airports across the nation, once again establishing and normalizing police states. Absolutely horrifying. And lockdown 2.0. And these are all in the headlines today in the show notes of the SJ show. The IEA chief, this is the International Energy Agency, has now said that current oil supply losses due to the closure of the Straits of Hormuz exceed the combined impact of the 1973 and 1979 oil crises. Gas losses are nearly double from the Russia-Ukraine war, and other commodities like fertilizer are also going to be impacted. The situation is very, very severe, and this has now led to a publication from the IEA, which is essentially Lockdown 2.0, energy. Aaron Day overviews this on a tweet that is linked into the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. And from the energy lockdown and the energy crisis comes the economic crisis and the financial meltdown. So we now have two contrived crises, energy and financial, created by this government on purpose, okay? And these will be used to justify, as we all know, the technocratic police state. The last thing we're going to look at is a piece from Patrick Wood and another warning from Aaron Day about 3 laws amidst all of the chaos. We aren't watching what is happening in Congress and the bills that Donald Trump is signing. And Aaron is warning of 3 laws which are converging right now that no one is connecting. And when they finish, says Aaron, everything you think you own can be frozen, seized, or expired with one line of code. The Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and UCC Article 8 and 12. We're going to look into this. They are closing in on the police state, the technocratic police state. And Patrick Wood, one of the world's foremost experts on the techno-fascists and technocracy, will be with us tomorrow live in the SJ show to go all over all of this. He wrote this today on his Twitter account. Repotting is the word that Howard Fink uses to move financial assets from their current form into digital wrappers. A repotted plant is still under the gardener's control. Under full tokenization, which is what they're going to try to do, they're going to try to justify this after they collapse the economy. Your home, your savings, your retirement account, and your land, likely your body as well, and your children's bodies, all exist as programmable tokens to be assessed and valuized, and they are on the blockchain. The rules governing these tokens are written privately by insiders like BlackRock. They are blessed by captive regulators, governmental regulators, and will be enforced by AI-run algorithms. The SEC and CFTC handed over a joint token taxonomy framework on March 17th, 2026. And the regulatory green light that was always coming because the people writing the rules and the people deploying the capital are in the same network. And they are the same people who are collapsing the system as I speak to you today. Energy crisis, financial crisis, incoming, lockdown 2.0 will be the vehicle. And if they get away with it, the mission is to stop them, but if they get away with it, they envision a global worldwide police state that is controlled by an elite, unelected, oligarchical power structure. Slavery for all. You'll own nothing and be happy. And Donald Trump is the Trojan horse in the United States of America, ramming this through. Bill Benz, I see you on the live chat. Live free or perish. Great to see you on the live chat as well. Hells Bay, great to see you too. So these are all the headlines that are linked up in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show today. Later on today, in just about 15 minutes, we're going to be welcoming in the Joy Virtual Studio once again, the Emerald Robinson. We are also going to cover today a very important topic. Emerald has uncovered something that I have been noticing for the past few years. TPUSA, Russell Brand, Candace Owens, the Christian evangelical right, this movement to influence a Christian population using a warped version of the Bible, a warping of scripture, and a complete bastardization of what it actually means to be a Bible-believing Christian. And Emerald Robinson has been reporting on this as an evangelical psyop, a Catholic psyop, and it is incredibly sophisticated, very well funded, and her expose centers around one story, which is a great explainer, an insurrection Barbie, massive account, posing as a female. We don't know now if it's male or female, but it is certainly an intelligence operation and a psychological operation. And Emerald has been reporting this on her independent show. We are going to look at this as a whole because this is the way that they are completely manipulating a Christian community and building an enormous power structure for, money and power, money and power. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And we're going to expose that later today. Candace Owens too. I am convinced that Candace Owens is a completely fake Christian. I don't believe she's a Christian at all. I think that Christ is King is a psyop. I've mentioned that on the show, and we're going to discuss it with Emerald on this as well. You know them by their fruit, and that's how we know. So we have a big show for you today. But first, I do want to thank our sponsors over at Schiff Gold. Right now, amidst all of the crazy, the metals market is being pummeled. If you hadn't noticed, it has dropped along with everything else, right? The stock market, the bonds, I mean, you name it, everything is collapsing amidst all of this chaos. But I will tell you, Jesse Colombo, Peter Schiff, and some of my most trusted analysts out there are still incredibly bullish on metals right now. In fact, the fact that we are around a little over 4,200, I believe, for gold signals a very, very important buying opportunity for people who did not want to get in when gold was over 5,000. All of the fundamentals are the same. Nothing has changed whatsoever. And Peter Schiff just said this about the market chaos. He said, if you were bullish on gold before the war, you should be even more bullish now. The war means soaring U.S. budget deficits, skyrocketing food and energy prices, recession, rising unemployment, collapsing stock, bond, and real estate prices, increased threat of terrorism, and financial chaos and crisis. This is when you will see gold begin to move again. And there's a great piece I linked you to in the show notes of the SJ show from Jesse Colombo on his Substack, The Bubble Bubble, which gives you all of the information. Again, none of the fundamentals are different right now. And this is why so many people who are sober-minded are moving into gold and silver right now. It is just a necessary correction, but they believe, many analysts believe that we could go upwards over 10,000. And that is now, this is not financial advice at all, but this is where I am at. So I want to encourage you guys to learn about gold and silver, whether it is protecting your retirement with gold and silver through a gold silver IRA, or hedging against the chaos with physical gold and silver, or even socking a little bit away every month in gold and silver, physical gold and silver through Peter Schiff's tokenized gold, which is a great option for people. You can learn all about it and talk to an amazing, friendly representative over at Schiff Gold by going to schiffgold.com/joy today. Sign up for their emails, sign up for their gold and silver information guides, and get connected. But make sure you go to schiffgold.com/joy. That is schiffgold.com/joy, so that they know I sent you. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to move into, I think we're going to talk about Lockdowns 2.0 and Genius Act, Clarity Act, and the UCC Article 8 and 12, so that you guys are firmly aware of what is coming down the pipe. They are increasing the chaos. They're pushing the pedal to the metal. And so things are going to be very bumpy for a while, but the more you know, the better able you will be to protect your family and your community. We need to start organizing at the local level and being prepared. So we're going to look at these two stories as well from sources Aaron Day and Patrick Wood in just a moment when we come back. And we'll say hello to all of you as well. So keep it tuned right here. We'll be back in a moment to continue the show right here on the Shannon Joy Show. And today I want to talk to you guys about ivermectin. I'm using their ivermectin cream right now, and it has been a lifesaver for rosacea. I haven't been dealing with acne or anything like that recently, but as I've aged, my skin has gotten bumpy and red, sometimes itchy, and I've been dealing with rosacea. The ivermectin cream from TWC is absolutely knocking it out. In fact, it started working within a day or two of using it, and I have not had any problems since. If you think you're dealing with bad skin as an adult and acne, you might be dealing with something else, an untreated root cause. And it starts small. If you're like me, it's a little redness, a few bumps, and then it expands, and then it becomes consistent and persistent. You go through the cycle of doctor appointments, trying to figure out what's going on, one product after another, and you're not alone. So 25% of adults struggle with acne, and more than 14 million Americans battle rosacea. 1 in 10 people suffer from chronic dermatitis or eczema. So these are not just cosmetic issues. They itch, they burn, and they crush confidence. And I have been dealing with this for many years. I can't believe how well the ivermectin cream works. It's called Clear Skin Ivermectin Cream from the Wellness Company. It's a dermatologist-designed prescription formula that targets the root cause safely, gently, and under the skin. So it helps to clear your clogged pores and brighten the skin. It reduces inflammation, and it helps control bacterial overgrowth to calm in irritation. It's amazing. I love this product. You can have it too. Go to twc.health/joy. That's twc.health/joy. Use the promo code JOY. You'll save $20 off plus free shipping in your first for your first order. So that's twc.health/joy, twc.health/joy. And let me tell you, it doesn't help. It doesn't help to have to be on the video every single day. You know, I used to be a podcaster, and that was great. I could come in my pajamas with my hair everywhere, don't have to do hair and makeup. It was just audio, radio, and podcast. And ever since platforming out to all of these video platforms, it matters a little bit more, and you want to have that confidence. I want to have that confidence. So I'm super thankful to the folks over at TWC. The ivermectin cream is an absolute miracle worker. So thank you to the Wellness Company and all of our sponsors here in the Shannon Joy Show. At 123.com/joy, everything that you're going to need for preparation: generators, solar panels, Faraday products. If you want to disappear and protect yourself from the surveillance state, they have an entire line of amazing Faraday products called dark bags. They're always 10% off at the satellite phone store if you go to sat123.com/joy. That is sat123.com/joy. The satellite phone store has supported the Shannon Joy Show for many years. They are amazing partners, and let's help the companies that help keep the lights on here at the Shannon Joy Show. So if you are in the market for any of their products or services, make sure you use that promo code JOY and go to sat123.com/joy. That's sat123.com/joy. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Welcoming Emerald Robinson into the Joy Virtual Studio in just about 10 minutes. But I do want to go over the most important headlines, I think, today. And this is the creation of the police state, the digital technocratic police state in the U.S. And Patrick Wood and Aaron Day have explained it very well. So we're going to get to that in just a moment before we bring Emerald in. But also from React 19, I know I mentioned this in the introduction of the Shannon Joy Show, and it's devastating. React 19, one of the premier organizations bringing attention to the plight of the vaccine injured, the millions upon millions of broken bodies from routine childhood vaccines, COVID shots, and adult vaccinations. This is one of the biggest stories in the world, in the country. And even with Bobby Kennedy Jr. in office at HHS, it appears that the rug is now being pulled out from underneath us once again. This is from React 19. It's heartbreaking for us because we were hoping to be able to discuss the real harms that have happened to people post-vaccine. But this week, the CDC's ACIP Vaccine Advisory Committee was scheduled to formally address COVID vaccine injuries for the very first time. And apparently a federal judge stopped that from happening. I don't know how a federal judge can stop a meeting from happening or a discussion from happening. It's incredibly suspect to me. And so the meeting is not going to happen. Once again, another broken promise from HHS. I'm not necessarily buying. It's very convenient that a federal judge has stepped in and stopped this important meeting, but we're going to keep an eye on these stories. Just really devastating. Absolutely devastating. Let's go to these two combined stories, because I think a broad understanding of what is happening in the country, understanding that each crisis, whether it is an energy crisis, a financial crisis, a crisis at the airports, a crisis in Minneapolis, all of everything, every crisis that is deployed is contrived, right? The crisis that we are being subjected to is never really the danger, right? They want to frighten us and scare us and make us think that whatever the crisis du jour it is, that we need the government to step in and save us. And so the crisis is never really the threat. It is the countermeasure. It is the solution, right? The government creates the problems. The organizers create the problems. Then we have a reaction. And then the tyrannical, fascistic lockdown solution is always the answer. We are seeing this right now. The contrived war in Iran, the contrived energy crisis, the closing down of all of the mechanisms of global supply, transportation. All of this is on purpose. They're doing it on purpose. And it is to usher in the Agenda 2030 and the technocratic police state. So this is from Aaron Day about energy lockdowns. I mentioned that the IEA chief basically said the shit is hitting the fan, everything's falling apart. And he just published Lockdowns 2.0, an energy lockdown playbook. They released a 10-point plan over the weekend telling governments to restrict driving, ground flights, force remote work, and ban gas cooking. They called it sheltering from oil shocks, writes Aaron Day. Here's the plan. Number one, they are recommending alternating driving days based on your license plate number, odd plates on Monday, even plates on Tuesday, and countries are now already implementing this. They are recommending mandatory speed limit reductions on every highway, not for safety, but fuel rationing by another name. You can still drive, just slower and less often. Number three, avoiding all air travel where alternatives exist. They didn't define what that actually meant, but the ambiguity, writes Aaron Day, is the feature. It lets regulators decide after the fact whether your trip was essential or not. Non-essential versus essential. Does that ring any bells? Here's another one. Switch from gas cooking to electric. The IEA is now telling you what appliances you can use in your kitchen. And the same agency that published net zero by 2050 is calling now for thermostats to be capped at 19 degrees and a ban on new gas boilers. This is not new, it's accelerating. And then work from home if possible. The guidelines mimic 2020 when they locked down the world and called it public health. In 2026, they're locking down movement and calling it energy security. The template is identical, writes Aaron. The excuse has changed. The IEA's net zero roadmap calls for personal behavioral changes modeled after COVID compliance. They even said it out loud in the guidance. Quote, COVID-19 has increased general awareness of how behavioral changes can be effective. They're getting sustainability lockdowns, the green agenda, everything that the UN Agenda 21 people wanted, everything that the UN Agenda 2030 people wanted, everything that the sustainability lockdowners ever wanted in the guise of an energy crisis that Donald Trump is creating with this chaos, right? So it's happening again. Isn't it apropos that the same guy that locked us down in 2020 is going to be the same guy who's going to lock us down in 2026 because of the contrived crisis that his criminal administration has put in place? This is what we warned about when we warned you about Trump. And this is why I told you, don't reelect the guy who did it to you in the first place, but no one listened. And now the chaos ensues. This is what Patrick Wood is going to be talking with us about tomorrow. He's the founder of Technocracy.news, which is one of the foremost websites for news and information on the expanding technocratic police state, the global technocratic police state that they want to usher in. And he joins me tomorrow on the Shannon Joy Show live to talk about this and more. But Aaron Day continues, how are they going to do it here in the US? So we see the crisis. It's completely contrived. They're going to lock us down and deliver the pain. All right. So implement the pain, make everyone miserable and poor and at each other's throat in the US because of the ridiculous lockdowns that are implemented because of the contrived crisis. And then what are they creating? What will they usher in? Well, he says there are three large laws that are converging right now in the US, and almost nobody is connecting them. When they finish, everything you think you own, says Aaron, can be frozen, seized, or expired with a line of code. First, the Genius Act. We're going to look at all three. The Genius Act made stablecoins legal. So every digital dollar that now operates under the Bank Secrecy Act with smart contract controls built in, and Tether has already frozen $3.2 billion in wallets across 62 jurisdictions. No court order was required. One function called add blacklist. So essentially, as they transfer all of your real money into tokenized money or stable coins, they're gaining access to those monies. And because the infrastructure is being created by unelected officials, technocrats, and corporate leaders outside of the jurisdiction of the federal government or any governmental body, they're able to shut you down like that. No court order, no evidence, no reason, nothing. They could erase it all. He then goes to talk about the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act passed the House 294 to 134. It routes every digital asset through regulated intermediaries. So once your crypto sits in a registered exchange, you don't own the property anymore. You hold what is called a security entitlement, a contractual claim against your custodian, not the asset itself. And so all of these, the problems that people have with these huge contracts that you sign on when you just hit agree, like behind the scenes, they are putting in place mechanisms to basically gain control over all of it under the guise, and it's going to accelerate with a financial collapse. So the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and the UCC Article 8 and 12, writes Aaron Day. And this is linked, this Twitter post is linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show if you want to pull it up. But UCC Articles 8 and 12 have been quietly adopted into 33 states. Article 8 turned your stocks and bonds into entitlements a decade ago or decades ago. Article 12 now does the same for crypto and tokenized assets. In a crisis, derivatives, counterparties, and secured creditors collect first. You are the unsecured creditor of your own broker, and you collect last. Now, he points to Canada, who proved that this worked. This is so important. William Mackis has been debanked. By the way, William Mackis, a resident of Alberta, Canada, he spoke about the 6 or 7 or 8 times he was completely debanked in Canada. They tested this in Canada with the truckers when they froze 200 plus accounts during that trucker revolution. And they've used it on William. They haven't secured it yet here in the US, but they're building the infrastructure to mirror that so they can do it to all of you and really threaten voices like mine, independent voices, Aaron's, Emerald Robinson's, who are trying to bring you to the truth every day. They can really do some damage if we're not careful. He said a court later ruled it unconstitutional, but it didn't matter. The money was already frozen, and China's digital yuan has expiration dates built in. Nigeria crashed its own economy before forcing central banking digital currency adoption. Private banking digital currency is the way they're going to do it in the US. And the US is one of the last countries on the face of the planet to adopt these centralized banking digital currencies. And we had to go about it in a different route because Americans largely rejected CBDCs. But Donald Trump, the Trojan horse president, is ushering it in now on the DL and calling it stable coins, Tether, or private banking digital currency. And it's even worse than central banking digital currency because there is no oversight, no governmental oversight whatsoever. These are just elite cryptocrats and billionaires like Bill Gates having their way with you every day, stealing all of your money and your wealth, and there's nothing you can do about it. This is the architecture, writes Aaron Day, that David Webb warned about in The Great Taking. The 2005 bankruptcy amendments gave the banks safe harbor to seize collateral even during bankruptcy proceedings. Your 401k, your IRA, your brokerage account, you hold entitlements, they hold priority. Everything digitized if they get their way, everything programmable if they get their way, and everything seizable. And mark my words, they will seize it. We are dealing with absolute crooks. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact. And so this is why we encourage Catherine Austin Fitts, hold on to cash, physical gold and silver, working with gold and silver companies that you trust, right? That have a long history of truth telling. That's why I work with Peter Schiff and Schiff Gold. It's also very important. Tomorrow, we're going to work on this and talk about this with Patrick Wood, who will be with us live on the Shannon Joy Show. So let's make sure that you guys schedule for tomorrow. Do not miss the SJ Show with Patrick Wood, where we will go into this in more detail. Thank you to Aaron Day for his very, very good work. We're going to go to a quick break. We should have Emerald in the studio very soon for her segment. So we're going to check and see how she is. But when we come back, let's go to a quick break. When we come back, we will bring the Emerald Robinson in to pivot onto a new topic, but a very important topic. How did they get us to fall for all of this? How did Trump get a conservative, Christian, fiscally conservative audience to fall for all of this and accept all of his lies? Well, it's likely a psyop that is designed and executed against the Christian population to warp the faith and move you into a false doctrine. It is, as Emerald Robinson has reported, she believes a psychological operation. We're going to look at the scandal that was Insurrection Barbie, a completely fake account designed to influence Christians. We're going to take that apart. Really interesting story when we come back with Emerald Robinson. So keep it tuned right here. We'll be back in a moment on the SJ Show. Hey everyone, I just want to take a moment to thank one of my longtime friends, associates, my financial advisor, and a beloved sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show, Dom Polano over at PCM and Associates. Dom Polano, as many of you know, was the very first Shannon Joy Show advertiser almost 12 years ago, and he's been with us ever since. I trust Dom Polano. He manages some of my assets and my retirement fund, and he's offering his services to all of you. He can take clients anywhere in the country and even across the globe over at PCM and Associates. And as you guys know, it is so important today. There's so much volatility and chaos. You need a human being, a person that you trust, and a person that shares your values. And that's Dom Polano at PCM and Associates. So if you are looking for someone to help you manage your retirement or have investment advice, please consider calling Dom Polano over at PCM and Associates. His number, 1-800-536-1368. That's 1-800-536-1368. And of course, you can go to PCMPolano.com. That is PCMPolano.com to learn about all of his services and get in contact with his team. Again, so thankful for Dom Polano at PCM and Associates. And I think that you are really going to appreciate his services. So that number again, 1-800-536-1368 for a financial advisor that you can trust. Hey everyone, I am so proud to recommend Schiff Gold to this audience as the gold standard for metals purchasing and investing. I couldn't ask for a better partner to help people understand gold and silver and use them as strategic instruments to protect their family's financial future. Peter Schiff's teaching on markets has shaped my understanding of how economies grow and why they collapse. And I've used him as a critical source for my daily broadcast for over 10 years. The Shannon Joy Show audience already knows and loves Peter because he has been such a treasured educator over the years. He is now the preeminent source for rock-solid financial analysis around the world. And this is because he understands the immutable laws of natural markets and his stalwart unwillingness to veer from absolute truths regardless of economic fads and political pressures. Bottom line, he doesn't sell out. And that means a lot to me. I trust Schiff Gold, and you can too. Go to schiffgold.com/joy today to get started. You'll find some of the lowest spot prices for gold and silver and critical information on protecting your retirement savings with a gold or silver IRA. That's www.schiffgold.com/joy. Hedge against the chaos with our friends over at Schiff Gold. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. And without further ado, I want to welcome a very, very special guest into the Joy Virtual Studio for the second time. I'm a huge fan of Emerald Robinson. She's an American independent, which is so important, journalist. She's a broadcaster. She's host of The Absolute Truth on Lindell TV. She previously served as chief White House correspondent for Newsmax in the dark days of COVID lockdown. She asked one too many pointed questions, and that got her ousted off of those platforms. She is now independent, a committed Christian, wife and a mother, and she is blowing the whistle on the evangelical and Christian psyops, which everyone kind of felt. I feel like Emerald, I've had the sense that something was very off with a lot of things. TPUSA, Russell Brand, even Candace Owens in some respect. Like there's a lot of faith being thrown around and Christ is King being thrown around, but there was something quite off about it. Your deep dive and expose exposing Insurrection Barbie, massive Twitter account as a huge psyop aimed directly at Christians and evangelicals, finally made sense of what I had been suspecting for many, many years. You're a great reporter. Welcome to the SJ Show for the second time. I need to have you on more often. How are you doing today?
I'm so pleased to be here, Shannon. And I would say the same thing about you. I need to have you more on more often as well. You're one of the fiercest women in the business that I know, and I always enjoy talking with you. And even if we don't agree, I always love to hear your perspective because I know you're so passionate about it. And you know what? I know with you, it comes from an honest place. So, right. There's that.
It's really tough. I mean, we're dealing with psyops, wrapped in a military operation, wrapped in it's like so many levels and so much deception out there that even as a reasonably intelligent communicator and presenter, it's even hard for me to kind of figure all this out. I'm sure you're probably dealing with the same.
It is. I will say, though, that the last decade has given me quite the education on different PSYOP operations, and there are multiple ones. As you mentioned, there's the military operations that I have some interesting perspective on, and I'll get into that in a moment. That's probably what we're going to talk the most about today. But also, there's now these political psyops, right, that MAGA has become a part of, in pushing messaging. You can't be critical of Donald Trump. You have to toe the line that's with policies that were not even part of America First. They were counter to America First. And if you don't agree or if you speak out about it, now there's this political arm. And Chris LaCivita is a large part of that. Ahead of that, he was one of the campaign managers for Donald Trump in 2024. He didn't make it into the White House because of some issues that they didn't think, he would be suited for the White House, probably would have some problems clearing. Wow. But he's now part of, steering messaging in a way that is really, honestly, when it's Chris LaCivita involved, it's counter to America First. It's usually very neocon. And I'm in the state of Virginia. And if you mention his name, he is not very popular around here, Shannon, because people blame him for losing the gubernatorial race in Virginia in 2017 for Ken Cuccinelli. That got us 4 years of Governor Ralph Northam. So there's the political arm, which we might get into a little bit later. But obviously, I've been more focused on the military arm of this. And it started with Insurrection Barbie. Though I noticed all around, right, we've always dealt with it, especially during the Trump era. It seems like they really came out en masse, particularly as it related to, say, Russiagate, right? We saw a lot of military PSYOP operations related to Russiagate. We saw them as they related to Trust the Plan, that kept America Firsters complacent in the first term. But the reason I started looking at this particular operation that we're talking about today is because Insurrection Barbie came on my radar in probably early 2024. It was sometime before the last presidential election, because she was basically taking my tweets, sometimes almost verbatim. Okay. Basically plagiarizing my work as I saw it and getting much more traction. Where I was still suppressed, obviously, for reporting on the COVID vaccine, reporting on election fraud. I've never truly been let out of jail for that, because people don't tend to forgive you for being first or right, if you've noticed, Shannon.
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's
you've
right.
had that experience. But that's why I started looking at her. And in fact, it was surreal to me. She was being pushed by Elon Musk. She was being pushed by this what looked like a circle of high profile accounts that had added numbers very quickly. Some of these people I even knew in my personal life, and it's very odd to me the kind of traction they were getting, where many of us were suppressed, and exactly what we would report and be suppressed, continue to be suppressed and censored. They could take that same work, that same reporting, and it be attributed to them and get a lot of traction. So I blocked her.
Right.
I blocked her then, along with a lot of other people, a lot of big accounts that you all know, big personalities. I blocked them because I did not want them taking my work. I didn't want to show up in their feed or them be able to check my timeline and steal what I'd worked very hard and sacrificed for, because as you know, it's cost you opportunity and money when you tell the truth.
Yes. Yes.
So I blocked her then. And then lo and behold, she shows up again in my feed for an article she wrote about evangelicalism, about the evangelical church and Zionism and how you should be pro-Zionist. And I was thinking, I don't recall this woman being a theological scholar. I don't even recall her ever mentioning Christian. And then I look back and she at one point says she was Jewish. So that's what got me to looking into her and her circle, Shannon.
And what did you find out? Well, what did you find out? I mean, when you started looking in, I mean, it was stunning. I mean, you've completely exposed this woman who might not be a woman. Again, insurrection Barbie. And you know, let us know, like, what did you find when you dug in and looked into her background? What'd you rustle up?
Wow. That was very interesting. So I looked at the article and I generally felt like it was probably artificial intelligence, that it had been AI written. And I pretty much confirmed that. So there was that. But it was being pushed by people like James Lindsay. It was being pushed by, other well-known accounts, some of them evangelical, some of them Catholic, some of them Jewish, but all that were part of this pro-Zionist now new affiliation that they all have.
Right.
And one account I knew, and this gets back to Russiagate and Trust the Plan. This one person pushing insurrection Barbie, I had met back in 2018, I think it was, when I was still at One America News. And that's when the Trust the Plan was really in full swing and people were, tuning in to see what, this military intelligence group was doing behind the scenes.
Right.
And this person who, at the very least, dabbles in journalism on the side, as well as being a current DoD contractor and consultant, still explained to me how the Trust the Plan Psyop was likely working. She was former Navy intelligence, and she said to me, this is really just a military Psyop in order to keep the base happy. And she said, we do these all the time. And she said, what was really funny about what she explained too is that you'll have psyops on psyops. So different units in military intelligence will be pushing different psyop messaging and essentially having psyop wars with each other.
Oh my word.
Unknowingly on social media and online. And this was all the way back to 2018. So
that was like QAnon, Trust the Plan, 12-dimensional chess. Very cryptic, and people were riveted by it, gripped by it. And many of them still believe it to this day, that we are in the midst of this masterful plan where Trump is going to emerge victorious and pull the rug out from the bad guys. And then we're all going to be ushered into the new golden era. And it's crazy. It's insane.
Exactly. And you got to remember during that time, I was covering the White House. I was there day to day. I was well-sourced in the Department of Justice. I was well-sourced in other agencies and even in the Pentagon. And, you had other journalists out there on TV saying indictments are coming. That was part of all of this as well. I mean, this was even in mainstream media, and I would talk to my sources, and there was no activity, and I knew that if something was happening, I would at least get a little dribble of something.
Right. And
it turns out I was right. So I knew that there was none of these, White Hat operations, that accountability was coming, because I just knew I could not confirm it in any way, no matter how hard I tried. And I was there on the ground every day. And you got to remember, I was also going into off the record briefings with the president at the time. And I had probably, more insight and perspective into how this all really works and how he works. And I would just tell people, this is not happening. But so getting back to that person, they explained to me in great detail one evening over dinner at the Chart House in Alexandria, Virginia, how these military psyops work. So imagine my surprise when I see this person, vehemently retweeting and defending Insurrection Barbie all day long. That really set off red flags. And I started looking at other people around this orbit that were retweeting and pushing this content. And I came up with a lot of contractors, whether it was the intelligence community or the military, that I was personally familiar with them. I know that they're past or current contractors. And that's just inorganic, right? This unknown Anon account has all of these military contractors pushing her content. That's just odd. Right. I started looking into who she was, and, it's kind of vague out there, but there's lots of documentation. And then I confirmed it through Grok, which I don't use a ton, but I thought, well, I'll throw it through Grok and just see if it says what I've come up with. And what I found is that she had been, if this is still in fact her, this Irina, I think it's Sedano, originally Eastern European sounding last name, obviously, maybe I don't know, last name doesn't sound European now, but she was a convicted felon.
Whoa.
Right. But here's the weird thing to me, besides that, besides this Irina being a convicted felon, you have to at least craft some messaging when you're tweeting. And I'm a very avid tweeter. Everybody knows that. I tweet a lot, more than average, and I haven't gotten anywhere near this number. She's posted about every 3 minutes for 4 years on average, for a total of 400,000 total tweets.
Unbelievable. Insurrection Barbie on Twitter, which I think I followed her for a very long time, to be honest, because she seemed, I don't know.
Well, because that's what they do. Yeah. They post, like I said, she was posting a lot of my reporting.
Right.
And not attributing it to me. But they post information and content that appeals to the target audience. And much of it is true. Let's even say to these psyops, some of them, 90 to 95% of it will even be true.
Right. That's how they get you.
Percentage, that they want to influence you on, but you believe them because they've been so dead on for so much of it. And some of them don't get activated for years. They really build the trust with the audience. And look, this is a known tactic of the CIA. I did an interview with Peter Schiff recently. He's a former CIA agent and whistleblower. And we talked about this in depth. I've been familiar with it. I've had people I know go through the program actually at Quantico and the farm to not just be, agents, but influencers.
Wow.
But Peter Schiff talked about recently, maybe we can have a couple good clips from him. One's on the nuts and bolts. And one is why the Evangelical. So maybe we should listen to him talk about why the Evangelical, so we can understand a little bit more about what I think is an operation involving Insurrection Barbie.
Absolutely. Annie, why don't we pull up, we have 2 clips. Why don't we run them? Let's run the why the Evangelical clip first. And then, the second one right after we'll go to that first, and I'll come back to you, Emerald, and then we'll run the second one because very informative. Let's run that, and then we'll continue with the discussion.
It's a pervasive program, and psyops go all the way back. There was a paper written, and I'd recommend people search this out, called Operation Mind War and Psyops that goes all the way back to the Pentagon. The individual that started that Psyop program to be used domestically is still out there and has been on major news media programs and others. It's called From Psyop to Mind War, and I would suggest people go back and look at that. That is operating today, and they're intentionally getting in to MAGA groups and Christian groups, and even penetrating denominations. They tried it on Catholics, penetrating Catholic gatherings, and even bugging some of those places. And as I've mentioned before in other interviews, the one thing that the shadow government, the deep state, I call it the shadow government, specifically the CIA, fears is a true Christian, because we're not afraid of them. And if we believe in a higher authority, so we can't be controlled. Even the KGB mentioned back during the Cold War that they could control the entire populace, but they couldn't do a thing about the Christians. So they had to put them in the gulags. So real Christians are a threat to the deep state and the shadow government and tyrannical control, and they know that. And evangelical Christians that you properly mentioned are one of the biggest voting blocs in the country, and they always have to be wooed if a president or any candidate is going to be elected. So they are a targeted group, and they have been penetrated up to the highest levels. As I mentioned, the MAGA movement, Turning Point USA, and others have been targeted.
I would go even further to say that I think that MAGA, I mean, I'm now at the conclusion, after observing for 10 years, that MAGA itself looks like a psychological operation to me. But Emerald, amazing statement from Kevin on why evangelicals and Christians are the prime target. Can you expand into what they want to influence, or what they want to attempt to create, the mindset they want to create within the evangelical community regarding this specific psyop with Insurrection Barbie? How do they want them to think about the world? And how do they want them to think about, what is happening? What is the purpose, I guess I would ask, of this psyop and in the targeting of the evangelical Christian community?
Well, let's look at the current time we're in. We've just launched war on Iran. Now, one of the platforms for the president, even in the 2024 election, right, but has long been his platform, is no more new conflicts. And that really resonated with his base, even the evangelical Christians, right, who do tend to be more pro-Zionist, right? But after Afghanistan, there is foreign conflict fatigue across all groups. No matter how many fake polls you put out there, Shannon, going to war again is not highly favorable. There is not a majority of Americans who support it. And that's become a contentious point amongst pollsters, right? Because there's now a push to influence the pollsters in the way that they do, social media, social media influencers. So we're getting to a really dangerous period. I'm particularly looking at the evangelical psyop. I'm sure there are some Catholic out there as well to try to sway them to support this foreign policy that was so contradictory to everything that America First stood for. So they have to activate high-profile thought leaders, particularly evangelical thought leaders, to influence the base to accept this. And say, no, this is the right thing to do. President Donald Trump had no choice but to engage in this war. Israel is our greatest ally. This was, and then for those who are not on board with that, and I see it even in churches that I visit, Shannon.
Yes, me too.
I had to stop going to a study group because every week had become, we must support Israel at all costs.
Yes.
We must support them. They are the chosen people. And if we support them and bless them and help them to build the third temple, Christ is going to favor us. We will be blessed. And Netanyahu got up on the podium in the East Room just a matter of months ago and used that, the verse from Genesis, albeit wrong, with the wrong wording, which they all do. And this used to work on me too. This is why I know it so well. I am an evangelical Christian.
Right.
I was brought up this way. Only in the last few years did I start to question, well, does this mean our foreign policy has to be this? Is this truly what God wants? Is this in our best interests? I always seek to do God's will first. But I started realizing that there's a lot more questions here. And because I cover this day in and day out. And I know the money that goes into pushing this messaging. I've been approached by people. I've been approached by all these governments, offered trips to Qatar. I've never done them. Never done them. I've never taken the money, because once you do, there is no getting off that train, as I personally think Charlie Kirk found out. And I can tell you more why I feel that way personally a little bit later. But you even see in the churches, I had to stop going to that group because that's what it had all become. And see, now I happen to see how the money works. I know how the foreign policy Psyop works. So for me, I was seeing what it felt like a Psyop to me in the church. And so and I'll get back to Netanyahu. He said, those who bless Israel will be blessed. Well, no, the promise was made to Abraham. And then you get into Galatians 3, and it says that the Christian church, the Christians are the seed of Abraham. So we can sit and have a theological debate, and that's one thing. But when you're using it to push foreign policy with questionable outcomes, and there are going to be civilian lives lost, right? There are going to be kids murdered. We have to question everything we're being fed to support this. And so that's why I believe this particular Psyop was activated. Now, this does not account, that all these high profile people, and I know a lot of these people. Like I said, I know that contractor personally who explained the Psyops to me. Sure. I know James Lindsay. I've had him on my show, though. He's, sitting there criticizing me every turn right now. I've had him on my show. I liked some of his DEI, CRT work in the past, though I thought he was an atheist, so I have no idea what he's doing.
He is an atheist. He is an atheist.
I thought, well, maybe I missed something. Maybe he converted. And then at the very least, he would be a neophyte, right? Which they keep calling Carrie and Candace. And, so then we according to his own rationale, we shouldn't listen to him then either. But I mean, I don't know why we're listening to an atheist on how to be a good Christian. And then here's the other thing with James Lindsay. Getting back to Insurrection Barbie, who is she? Remember, I went searching for who she is. I had lots of people calling me after I started questioning her. Shannon, all kinds of people came out of the woodwork and had weird interactions with her for one reason or another. A lot of it was plagiarized. They felt she was plagiarizing their work. Some was just the weird misdirection they saw. Some hadn't interacted with her on Spaces, but then had sort of questioned, who is she really? They didn't know who this person coming on Spaces actually was. And so one person
wasn't she running? So she portrayed herself as a Jew for a time, and then she began to portray herself recently as a Christian, pushing this Christian theological defense of the war with this, going to war with Iran on behalf of Israel, which is really what they want to do, right? They want to justify it to a group of people who wouldn't normally go for it. And so she started these Bible study spaces where she is conducting, I guess, Bible studies with people. I mean, have you been able to hear any of them or any of the discussions there? Because that's just crazy.
I hadn't. I singularly went off her. She's now written 2 articles, one specifically trying to link me and Candace and Carrie.
Oh my God.
And I've been on Candace's show once back in when I was at Newsmax. So that's how long ago you would have to go for that.
Yeah.
And then Carrie, I mean, I briefly met her, when we were in the same space, said hi, and that's the extent of it. So it was funny to lump us together. And I am evangelical, and they are Catholic, so it's funny. They were giving us the face of, like, I don't know how she put it, but but with who she is, people started calling me. And I mean, they really came out of the woodwork, Shannon, maybe more so than any other person that I've looked into. And one Texas contact said, you might want to put, and I'm not going to put this name out there yet because I'm still verifying the information. We're like, there's someone and it's male who, might have some kind of level of control over this account. And I found that really odd. And then I thought about this and I thought, well, this person has constantly, since the inception of this account, retweeted it consistently day after day over the last few years. And so then it kind of became, well, is it even a woman? And I don't think, I haven't put that out there in a great way. So what's interesting about that, and enter James Lindsay again, he was on a recent program talking to another person who supposedly, is an evangelical thought leader and author. And they're talking about who is Insurrection Barbie. And this is a really amazing piece of work she wrote about the evangelical church and Zionism. And they were just,
by the way, I read that. It was like 18 pages printed out. And there's no way she wrote that. There's no way she wrote it.
You can tell.
It's AI slop is what it is. It is the most convoluted, layered, leveled justification for political Zionism, which is essentially we take over the whole world. We take over the whole world. The Jews are perfect. They can do no wrong. And us Christians are in the back seat. Okay. They're driving the crazy train. We're in the back seat. Like, do whatever you want because you're God's chosen people. And
like the Epstein, we're not supposed to pay attention to the Epstein files was another reason, the Psyops, because they are in panic mode.
Right.
So here's what was interesting about what James Lindsay said. While they were praising this obviously, and they're both good writers, these two people, so they know slop when they see it. So
absolutely.
I don't believe they really thought this was great. I know them both well, and they're both, I'll give them a compliment. They're excellent writers, both of them.
Yeah.
James Lindsay sort of lets the cat out of the bag. Oh, well, we don't really know who she is. We don't know who she is. I mean, it might be a male. They said that. It might be male. And the other guy's like, yeah, we don't know. It might be male. Like, so we don't even know for sure. And this is, again, James Lindsay and this other person questioning them. This is not even me saying this. We don't know if Insurrection Barbies, who's running the account now, right? Because sometimes these accounts get sold off or they pay a certain amount for somebody else to run it. And I ran into that on my Venezuela reporting. I had a friend call me up and saying, why are you, attacking my accounts? And I'm like, you're running these accounts? So the people that I thought were running were not even running that. And that's on the political side. Okay.
Crazy.
And so we don't even know if Insurrection Barbie is a man or a woman who's running the account now. And so we're supposed to trust what they say on.
This has become an incredibly difficult situation on X post Elon. There are so many fake avatar accounts. You don't know who the person is. You don't know if they're human. They pump out so much content. No human person. Same with you, Emerald. I am an avid tweeter. Okay. And the amount of content that they pump out is impossible. It's impossible. There's no way that they could do this. And, filtering through, I guess I would say to the audience, find people who are real. Find people who are real, who you can interface with, who are live, that are actual humans, whose names are, public, like yours, like mine, because you just can't trust these people anymore. And you mentioned a lot of accounts. Do you feel comfortable disclosing some of the big name accounts that you've seen pushing out Insurrection Barbie? You don't have to, but it would be helpful to know if there are.
James Lindsay and Dan Bongino are two, but just go and if you search for her in X, you'll see how they're all posting it together.
Wait. Do we think that maybe Dan Bongino is Insurrection Barbie?
I actually don't think it's Dan Bongino. That I don't think. I'm not sure he could have even written the AI article.
That would have been priceless.
That would have been great. That'd been a great story, but I don't think it's Dan Bongino.
Well, Dan Bongino.
Bongino lately, so I've been giving him the feminine form.
Bongina?
That one made me laugh too. I saw somebody recently say that.
Dan Bongino, shortly before joining the Trump administration, I called him out during the primaries of 2024 because he was pushing Trump as if he was inevitable and trying to cancel the primaries. And it irritated me. And I said to everyone, Dan Bongino is linked with the Trump administration and the Trump family, and he's making money off of them. Like he through Rumble and all of his accounts, he's a total fraud. So, you have to take everything he says as with a grain of salt. And he got very angry with me and called me a piece of S and full of S and a piece of trash. He all caps screamed at me on Twitter one night, and it was just, and then he blocked me because he's a big fat baby. All right. So
Big baby.
Dan Bongino is pushing insurrection Barbie. So that's all I need to know because, he's completely corrupted in my opinion. And, you know, I think that it's, very helpful to try to understand how these operations work and what they want people to think. We only have about 5 minutes left on the show, but what do you think should be the most important takeaway for the audience here in terms of the goal, like what they want to attempt to do, and how to kind of brace themselves for a regular person trying to get the news and understand what's going on? Do you have some advice or insight into how to sift through all of this?
Well, I think when you see people, we used to talk about it a lot on the left, right? Because they would have their morning meetings, and then in the mainstream media, you would see the same buzz phrase all day long.
Right.
And you knew there was no way that was organic. Well, like I say, what is an example? Well, there was lots of them surrounding Russia collusion, right? And then there's the stuff about election fraud and how that's debunked claims or whatever. They would always use the same phrase, and we would slam them for that. And that's how you knew it was an op, right? They were in coordinated messaging. I would say you can use those same context clues, right? And look at what you think is messaging on the right. But if you see a lot of people parroting the exact same phrases, sometimes down to the exact language in a tweet, right? You should just, maybe it's still true, but look a little deeper into it. The Anon accounts, I have now become very skeptical of, even though I'd liked a lot of them in the past. And some of them I do actually know the authors of, and they are good people, especially certain maybe medical journals that have Anon accounts. Some of them are particularly really good, and they're doctors, and, they don't want to really be a celebrity. So, they put out this great information. But largely, you should be probably skeptical if you don't know the face and name. The problem we're now going into, Shannon, is that we almost have to be skeptical of the names we know because there's so much money out there. And it's not that it's speculation. We know there's been extensive reporting on, let's get back to Israel, the money that they've seeded via Brad Parscale, the former Trump campaign manager from, the second run, his run in 2020. That's been, given this money to dole out. It's well documented.
Right.
And so you see it. And so even the names that you just have to use discernment. And at this point, I'm a messaging professional, right? I am a journalist, a communications person. I've done this for a long time. I think in this day and time, we need to pray every single day, every person, for discernment.
Right.
Because this is deception. This is meant to confuse us, to sow confusion so that, nefarious plans can be laid and executed. So we do need to pray for discernment. As far as also, and like you said, touch grass and talk to real people, even in your orbit, right? Because people are paying more attention now, I feel like.
I think that people are beginning to instinctively and naturally pick up on these messaging themes and these terms. And to your point about the anons, there are a precious few that I trust. Most of the anonymous accounts, I will maybe look at them, but I don't treat them as actual sources or the best sources. In terms of actual human people who are being paid money to message, this is something very important that people need to understand. In the world of influencers and podcasting, all of the rules of disclosure, payola, pay to play are out the window. So what bound communicators in broadcast television and radio, legislation rules, if you have an advertiser or a sponsor, you have to disclose it. In the world of influencers and podcasting, that's very murky. There aren't rules, and people could be taking enormous amounts of money and pushing out religious messaging, political messaging, working for super PACs, taking money for that and never disclosing it to their audiences, Emerald. It's terrible.
One caveat to that, having worked in corporate media, I will tell you there's more of it going on in corporate media than you even know as well.
Yep, I believe it.
There's a lot of that too. It's just we have to be better at looking at, what we're listening to and doing the legwork of trying to verify ourselves, which is really tough. And it makes it tough on people who really try to do the right thing in journalism too, right? Because people don't trust you as much because of those psyops.
Who do you like right now? I have one more minute. Who do you like right now in terms of, sources? Is there anything that you really trust that you think has been consistent over time? I mean,
I say it's a la carte. There's different people at different places, right? Different independent journalists. And
yeah,
off the top of my head, I don't think I can, just rattle them off. There's some people who are good at one place, right? And there's some independent people that are really good. Increasingly, corporate media is definitely just a dead zone. There's not anybody there that's really even allowed to be. And I can tell you that from having worked and just even after I left Newsmax, the Ukrainian conflict, I see so many parallels between this new conflict in Iran with what happened in Ukraine. After I left there, a couple of producers told me at Newsmax, they were told they were not allowed to criticize Zelensky at all.
Really?
No questions asked for NATO. So why, right? Why?
It's terrible. Emerald Robinson, amazing. How can people find you, support you, and watch your show? Because you're a source that I trust, and I think that our audiences would really match up. How can people find you?
Yeah, you can subscribe to my Substack at emerald.tv. We've been expanding there. We have a Christian Nation subsection as well as our new NatSec guy. It's really great on especially the Iran war. It's not one of those paid for influencer. Brandon Weichert's great. So we've added new people to my Substack, emerald.tv, and you can watch my show every day, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern, live on Lindell TV at lindelltv.com, and download the app from your app store.
Awesome. Awesome. We're competitors, but that's okay. You're amazing.
Oh,
we're on at the same time. No, but you know what? It's okay. I want everyone to follow you and support you. We need more.
You can also watch me later at 8 p.m. too in the encore. Exactly. So you don't have to forego Shannon. Just watch me at 8 p.m.
Yeah. Same here, right? There's enough to go around. Emerald Robinson, thank you so much. You're amazing. And let's do this again very soon. Okay.
Definitely. Thanks.
All right. She's awesome. She's awesome. We need to support those independents who are doing the hard work and, really suffering for it. Very difficult to get into the pipeline for promotion and funding and platforming when you take that independent stance. Emerald is just a beacon. And so thank you to Emerald Robinson. Thank you to all of you for being with us today on the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you to Inez Annie Cyrus for producing the SJ Show, and to all of our sponsors. Tomorrow, we will be back to do it all again. We have Patrick Wood joining us live tomorrow. Don't miss the show. Have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow on the SJ Show.